what they want to believe. And apparently, someone put 2 and 2 together in a certain way and came up with this. What 2 and 2? You're scaring me. Well, you're a young American woman here on a foundation grant from the United States for poetry. Yes, for poetry, but I don't think they believe this is the only reason you are here. They're paranoid these days, and they no longer understand the Americans. For example, before the current ambassador arrived, your president nominated a woman about your age to be the next ambassador to El Salvador. My God, you should have seen the reaction. A woman. His pen wandered on the white paper protecting the red checkered cloth, but the drawing was upside down. Stick figures, corn plants, battleships. I don't see what this has to do with me. Well, at the same time, your president announced a new human rights policy. That really confused them. Years and years of keeping order by whatever means necessary, and in exchange, American military and economic aid, bank loans, investment, the works. And now they have to be certified as respecting human rights in order to get this money. And unfortunately, they don't know what certified means, much less how they are going to keep order while at the same time respecting so-called human rights. About my mistaken identity. I need to know why they think this and what you're going to do about it, because I'm getting to that. Wait. Listen to what I'm saying, Papu. Put 2 and 2 together. For months after the former ambassador and political officer failed to get action on the Richardson case, and after their resignations were the first to be accepted by your new president, what happened? The embassy had no leadership for a good while, and during that time, the Americans nominated a girl, a woman, not according to the Salvadoran military. And right now, we're trying to look at the situation from their point of view. Remember, think like a colonel. Another bowl of cockles arrived with 2 more Cokes. We had to pull the creatures with a special fork from their black shells, and I found it difficult to tease them out. Lionel had a special way of doing this, and he also liked to suck the briny liquid from the shells after swallowing the mollusks, which he did with great relish. He paused in his story to do this, so I lit a cigarette to calm my nerves. Where was I? Oh yes, after considering the possibility of a girl as ambassador and trying to figure out if the gringos have lost their minds, you show up at a time when, as far as they know, there is no new deputy chief of mission or whatever you call it. Maybe that person is you. Well, it's easy enough to check my fellowship and that I'm a poet. They probably have checked. But to them, the foundation that gave you your fellowship used to be connected to mining interests in Latin America. And poetry, many of them write poetry themselves. Ask them. It's quite bad, but they'd be happy to show it to you. And Yale, your poetry book was published by Yale, which has educated a fair number of intelligence officers and agents. So what are you saying? Well, he said, I'm saying that they think you might be the new something or other at the embassy, or at the very least, an intelligence officer. So this is why they want to talk to you. Who does? Some of them have asked me if you would meet with them. And what did you say? You said no, right? What could I say? We're talking about the Salvadoran military now, remember? In a country that has been under their dictatorship for more than 50 years. Say no to them? I don't think so. He finished the cockles and licked his thumbs, then wiped his smudged glasses on a paper napkin. Don't worry. I think this development might even be useful. What does that mean? Well, for a little while at least, you will be watched closely, and your opinions will matter. They will be reading you for signs of what the Americans think. Maybe we can even convince them that this human rights policy is serious. But isn't it serious? I don't know. But I've seldom seen the Americans serious about human rights unless it is politically convenient to be concerned. So if they are truly interested, it is something new, to me at least. I'm just going to deny the whole thing. I'm going to tell them that I'm a poet and that's it. Precisely. And at that moment, they will know that what they suspected is true. There is a saying we have here that may have even originated in your own State Department: never believe anything until it is officially denied. If I were you, I would let them think whatever they wish to think. Did you have anything to do with this, Lionel? Tell me. Did you lead them to suppose I'm someone I'm not? No, this fell into my lap, actually, but I could not have planned it any better. Let's go now, he said. I have time to take you to El Imposible. Wouldn't you like that? The impossible. Yes, I thought. Whatever that means, why not? Actually, it is no longer quite El Imposible, you will see. We drove through Cara Sucia, through a green silence hung with fog, through a nowhere of highland coffee guarded by a blue volcano. Izalco, he said, remember the volcano that erupted on the night of the uprising in 1932. It's sleeping now. The fire in the earth is close to the surface here, Papu. All through this area, there are geysers, fumaroles, and small volcanoes, some with lakes in their craters, some sleeping, some pretending to sleep. Over there is Apaneca, a classic volcano such as children might draw, with its own cloud of smoke. They used to bring the coffee harvest through this forest by mule train to the port of Acajutla, and they had to pass through the hacienda Imposible, and then across the gorge. They built rickety makeshift bridges that sometimes didn't hold. Mules, sacks of coffee, men and boys all dropped into the gorge to their deaths when these bridges gave way. That is how the gorge came to be called El Imposible. The people would then build another bridge, and the same thing would happen. Some of them held for a time, of course, which made matters worse because this made the people think there was a chance. I tried to imagine a wooden bridge letting go of a gorge wall and tipping the mule carts. Mules running in the air, wild-eyed, straw hats falling just above the men's heads, coffee sacks breaking open and beans ticking into the sharp rocks at the bottom, forming hills of coffee. The government built a solid bridge in 1968 and announced that El Imposible was now possible. I don't know about that, but it's getting dark. By then, no one wanted to be out on the roads at night. Lionel opened a trunk in the back and retrieved a Magnum 357 and its clip. He leaned into the Jeep, slid the clip into the weapon, and laid it beside the 9mm Smith & Wesson. Night fell to the volcanic peaks and spilled into the valleys like ink. I've never seen anything like this, I whispered, even in the desert, even in Daya. I was closer here to the equator than I had ever been, in utter darkness, clouded with starlight. Lionel, can we just stay here for a little while? I've just never seen. I know, Papu, but the answer is no. Maybe I can show you the stars another time, in a place just as dark but safer than this. Let's go. We drove slowly and with headlights off as the moon rose, so as not, he said, to draw attention. We were going to Santa Ana, or near there, to stay the night, the town where Lionel was born and where Claribel Alegria had spent her childhood. What I knew about Santa Ana, I knew from her poems, a city whose poor children grew carnations in the crater of Ilamtepec, carrying them in bright sheaves down the mountain during harvest. This procession, seen from a distance, resembled lava flowing into the mountain's folds. I knew things like this, and that a man called Don Raimundo had magical powers to turn the electric lights throughout the town on and off, and that faces in the photo albums smelled of camphor. The Santa Ana of her poems was a city of neglected gardens, a closed-down pharmacy, abandoned houses, and dead birds. You want to know where I live? This is one place. We had pulled in front of a wall. He turned the engine off and checked the side mirrors and the rear view. Wait here. So we're skipping ahead a little bit. It was decided that I would go with Luisa to visit her friend V, a woman who answered only to the first initial of her given name. V lived in a small two-story house in a quiet colonia shaded by the ticking leaves of Manaka palms. By the time we arrived, the sun had already gone behind the city, and I remember worrying about the hour, as it would mean having to drive back in the dark. When I mentioned this, Louisa nodded that yes, she agreed. It would be dangerous to return to the hotel at night, but what can we do? At this time of year, it will rain for a few hours in the morning. The pericos will flock across the city at 5 in the afternoon. At night, the death squads will do their work. Morning will come, and in front of a school, a corpse will be found with its shirt pecked open and its eyes gone. We can sleep here, she said, as if suddenly taking my fears into account. But I didn't bring anything. What do you need? You don't need anything to fall asleep. You close your eyes. Besides, it is better for the work if I have more time here. She turned toward me then, looking into my eyes for a long moment. You must be careful here. Do you understand? We are just two women visiting a friend. This is something very light and social. We are going to talk about unimportant things. Some men are going to come over, and then we will go upstairs, and V will stay with the men. When they leave, if all goes well, we sleep. Does Lionel know we're coming here? No. He just knows you're with me. She reached under the driver's seat for a small analog cassette tape recorder referred to as a portable recorder then. She pushed a fresh cassette into the machine, then pressed record and play at the same time. Testing, testing. Habla colibri, she whispered. Hummingbird is speaking. A maid opened the door, standing behind it to let us pass, as if to use the door as a shield. And then V came from somewhere, rushing toward Louisa in a cloud of scent, the women kissing on both cheeks, V reaching for me and kissing me too. Welcome, welcome. She wore slender pants, high heels, bangle bracelets. Her dark blonde hair fell in loose curls down her back. Her long nails were lacquered the color of bougainvillea. Would you like something? Louisa said no, so I also said no. V led us into the dining room table, clean ashtray, bowl of fruit. Sit down, please. V's voice flitted like a delicate bat from this to that, something about friends they had in common, something about the beach, then laughter, a flame rising from a silver lighter, a scarf of smoke. Louisa seemed to be her friend, but was nothing like her. Louisa wore no makeup at all. Her hair was pulled into a chignon, and she must once have been a dancer, as she had a ballerina's carriage and floating walk. Louisa was calm and reserved, while V seemed excited about everything. Everything was precioso. Yet there was something else going on, something I had learned to perceive here in the interactions between people. On the surface, they seemed lighthearted, but there were meaningful looks exchanged,